Well, hey guys, and welcome back to another episode on our Tribulation Soldier COMS YouTube and Facebook. And this is not long after the previous one that we shared, guys, you know, so still very cold in Scotland at the moment. I mean, my hands are cold in the house just now, and the gas prices are very high just now. It's just the way things are, so doing this in the house, you know, I'm supposed to be a tough Scotsman, but not today. And yeah, and hopefully I won't be disturbed. I've got my little Jack Russell Bailey going around, you know, and door might knock or whatever, you know, but we'll just take it as it comes. But previously, guys, these messages are all about showing you guys our qualifications for what we're doing as an online ministry, you know. And again, I'm trying my very best to put it in a way that anybody can understand. Many Christians get this, you know, but if you're watching this and you're maybe not, you don't necessarily believe, you might not quite understand some of these things. So I'll try my very, very best. But as always, guys, please don't forget to like, subscribe and hit notifications. I'm a pastor, but I'm also a YouTuber, you know, so we've kind of got to say that, don't we? But I really hope you enjoy. Yeah, so extremely important, these messages, very, very important for moving forward. And I mentioned in the previous, would you allow an unqualified surgeon to operate on a family member, you know? And for those of you like me, you know, that have been through surgeries, it's a big no-no, you know. We can't have a guy saying, well, you know, yeah, I think I can do it. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine, let's go. You just wouldn't do it. You know, you absolutely would not do it. And in the sphere of Christianity today, it's always been the same. Back to biblical times, you've got false teachers, you've got incorrect teachers. People have got it very, very wrong indeed. Some people with the right heart for God, but the wrong teachings and so on. These tend to be the minority in the bigger scale. There's thousands upon thousands of amazing churches and pastors and people of God who love God and can really help and do something. But because of that kind of atmosphere of false teachers now, it's very important for people like me to show why I'm qualified to do what I'm doing, you know, and give you the history of why. And, you know, during that time, there's great challenges. I think in the last message, we got up to about 7 years from 2002 when I got the calling to actually stepping forward at the beginning part of the calling, which has been a youth and young adult pastor. And there's so much in that. There's just so much learning and teaching. It's just, I could go on and on and on, which I probably will in the future anyway. But, you know, I'm just trying to move through this a little quicker, you know, just so you guys can get a good overview. But yeah, I mean, in 2002, we came in among this amazing church. I mean, really exciting, very spirit-filled, what we'd call spirit-filled. You know, God was very apparent working there and stuff, and it was just, I mean, it really was tremendous. I went on to be a cell church overseer, and then I fell ill with ulcerative colitis. I was off for 4 years. And then after that, it was about 2009, we finally got set forward into the ministry of being youth pastors. And I've got to say this, you know, that at the time, especially when it came to the youth, I wasn't really interested in ministry like that. You know, the kids of that time, those of you that are watching this just now, you know, I used to say that, you know, that I would never have picked being a youth pastor. And now, 10 years later, I still look back upon that time and just love it. I love thinking about it. And it was just an absolutely tremendous time. But of course, I wanted to be set forward properly, you know, so 7 years of training basically, and then I was set forward to be the youth and young adult pastor with my wife Sharon. And we had quite a big youth at the time. It was quite well, for our area, it was a big youth, and we had some real talent. You know, there was kids that could play the guitar and sing, and you know they had their own worship band. I think they called it No Compromise, or we called it No Compromise. So we had, like, I would have to say, like, first class worship, you know, Sunday nights when it was youth church time, you know. Some of the kids were actually very experienced Christians, you know, 14, 15 years old, but had been Christians all their life, and they'd been part of this amazing church where they really experienced God in big ways. It was really quite something. And I think that at that time, all the conditions were right, you know, that it was just such a great time. And of course, with the youth work, you know, at the time, we didn't have David and Emily. This was before David and Emily. So, you know, Sharon and I were a married couple. We both had jobs, but we didn't have a huge amount of responsibility. So we could spend a lot more time with youth. And it wasn't just a Sunday night thing. You know, the Sunday night was very, very important, obviously. but every second Saturday night the kids would come here to the house, and there was as many of them. We just me and Sharon would go upstairs watching DVD so they could enjoy themselves, you know. But we also had a Thursday night youth cafe, which was awesome. So of course after work we'd cook a big meal for the kids in the church in the youth room, and we'd all eat, and it was just tremendous, you know. And I want to say, you know, I mean, a lot of people, and I was one of them, that wouldn't be very confident working with youth, you know, and it's very challenging, it's very this and it's very that. I never find it challenging in the slightest. I have to be honest, during that time, it was just tremendous. I really, really enjoyed it. And, you know, any challenges that came up were quite small challenges, you know. Some of the kids were very, very experienced at that time. You know, there's some of them that could speak in tongues. They had dreams from God. I'll go into that in some other time, you know. But it was just such a tremendous time. We went to youth conferences together. We held events at the church. I think it was on a monthly, tried to do it on a monthly basis with other youth groups in the area as a bit of an outreach to the local kids and stuff like that. Went on camping holidays, which was really good. You know, we went to, I think it was Sand End. You know, if you ever look in our Birnie Family channel, you'll see Sand End stuff just from me, Sharon and the kids. But back then we'd take the caravan and the tent and spend the weekend. Went away to big youth events, you know, that would last like 5 days in the summer. You know, and that would be like, we took the caravan and the kids would all be camping, and there was stuff on all the time for them, you know, and worship at night and all those things. Again, just into this amazing world, you know. And I find that being the youth pastor, I was just so amazed at how much I personally enjoyed it, you know. And it did come with the challenges, you know. There were kids that came from pretty tough backgrounds. Some of them had, you know, were young and already had police records, you know. They were very disruptive at school and various things like that, you know. So some of the kids were a little bit challenging in some ways. But let me tell you guys, you know, they were just part of the family. It was just, I still can't really explain it. It was just about as perfect as you can get. The conditions were just all right, you know. Some of the kids would be challenging at moments, but overall, no. Complete respect, you know, really enjoyed being around us and coming to the house, you know, and us going to events. We were really quite a little family, you know. Yeah, so life sort of changes and moves on, you know, and there was so much more to our transition from the youth to being assistant pastors, you know, a lot of different situations that happened. But for the purpose of this, I'm just going to be brief. But after years of trying for kids, and a promise, a very specific promise to Sharon, Sharon fell pregnant with our first child, Emily, and then a few months later with our second, David. So of course Emily was part of the youth for a wee while, and so was David. But it came to the point where the overseers of the church at that time really thought it was too much for us. We'll speak about that another time. Really felt we should step down. So of course you're back in that situation where you're looking to God. You're saying, right, what's the next? What do we do? You know, where do we go? And God actually moved us to another church, a small one, a lot closer to home. And in that role, obviously now, you know, I'd pastored adults before. I'd preached many times to adult congregations and at different events and various things like that, you know. And we got moved on to this small little one, you know. And my basic role there was to preach and teach, you know, and I'd help people as much as I could through that. But of course, having two young kids, Sharon was now on maternity leave, and of course I was still working. It was pretty tight and pretty tough, you know. And we were the assistant pastors for that time. Yes, at this point in time, you know, guys, I had my colostomy bag and so on, and I started to get this major problem with a hernia down in the stoma area, which is down here, you know. And it came to the point where I had to stop working. And during that time, you know, we had a group in the house. This is when we moved on from the cell church thing to a home church thing, you know. And we had a group here at the house, and at the time, you know, we were really praying and looking to God to really move in our area, you know, to really pray and look to Him, because we just wanted to see people come to God, people to be helped, you know, in the situations they were in. But then there came a point, and like I said, there's so much in that 3 years, just so much stuff that I could share with you. But I ended up getting a hernia where my stoma is, my colostomy bag, and I started feeling getting quite ill, and again, I was in that position where I really had to sort of step back from the pastoral role, the public role, and really kind of concentrate on what was going on with us at the time. And I went in for a surgery. I think it was the end of 2017. So it was supposed to be straightforward, probably out the hospital that day. But the surgery team made a mistake and nicked my large bowel, and ended up going septic. I almost died, actually, twice. But there you go. After that, 2018, I had an open wound. I had this big, sort of 4-inch open wound, I think it was, maybe a bit bigger. And I had to sort of nurse that for about 7 months before the next operation. And then what happened then, here we go again, it's no joy with surgeries. Went in for the corrective surgery to make that all right. And the next thing I knew, I woke up in the big hospital 2.5 weeks later, and I'd been on a breathing machine, and I was really, really quite ill. So having that tough 4 years from colitis, back 2004 to 2008, here I was again in the throes of, major health problems. But this tends to be the way God does things, It was during that time where things really began to refocus, because you've really moved on from that kind of local church stuff and local stuff, and you really start to move on. And it was then we started building the online ministry that you see today. And of course, when you do move on, it's very important to look to your elder Christians at that time, the people that have the authority, and say, will you set me forward in this? Would you give us your blessing that we can move forward now into this online ministry? And so we did. And of course, so that was us with the Tribulation Soldier ebook series. And more recently was YouTube, doing YouTube videos and various things like that. And of course, now, guys, we started off with one channel. We've now got 7. And over 1,000 videos online, including this one, So, it was quite a lot of work. But it was during that time of being ill and open wounds and all that sort of things that really gave me, in a lot of ways, the time to really explore this whole online stuff, this whole online ministry, and build a significant part of that. And I'll share all about that in the upcoming, But yeah, the ministry wise, I have to look back and say the youth pastor work was the best. It was just really good, and I can honestly say today, I miss it. I really, really miss it. I miss the pastoring as well. The preaching and teaching and various things like that. Publicly, but of course now being online, it's very difficult to be like that. You're really putting all your effort into this. And like I said before, being a senior pastor in your own area is not really the wisest of choices, especially if you have a history like I did. The women that I'd been with, the people I'd hurt, just the various things that I'd done. It really just wasn't a good idea. But we had, so right up to the point of being put forward again into this online ministry, I'd really wanted to follow the biblical thing, because God, guys, there's a very, very important scripture called, there are many who are called. Many. Like I was called by prophecy, but few are chosen. And that's a very, very important aspect. I had my calling and I was doing my training before I became the youth pastor, but there was no guarantees in that. I had to follow God. I had to move after him for that, before he decided and gave me the authority to step forward into doing what I was doing. And the same again after a youth pastor work, becoming an assistant pastor, same again. Am I called? Am I chosen to do this? And here we are in the online ministry, guys. We've been building. I've been called, but am I chosen? At this point in time, no. Absolutely not. I'm still waiting on God to move this thing forward, to say, yep, we've done what needs to be done. You're ready. Because, guys, that is the most important thing. God has to give you that experience. You've got to go through stuff. You've got to understand many, many aspects of human beings, who we are as people, our emotions, our heart, all these different things. He's got to put you through challenges so you can trust him and look to him, and he can teach you and help you understand. He has to mold you when it comes to, handling a church service or handling an event, handling people, helping people. All comes from experience, and you just can't get past that. Paul the Apostle, one of the biggest apostle of the New Testament, he was called, but he wasn't chosen until a certain point. He had to serve the church and do various missions way before he was set forward to be Paul the Apostle. And that's the same biblical model today. You know, that you can be called, you can even preach and teach, but to be chosen, to be set forward, to be given that authority, that's something you have to wait on. You have to see that from God. Yes, I'll get more in depth as time goes on, you know. But yeah, that was us, you know. We've kind of been through, you kind of go through primary school, secondary school. This is almost like university now. You know, this is moving into something like this. But again, it's just so important, guys, you know. The experiences that we've been through, the things that we've done are all confirmable. You know, it's always been a public ministry, so people have always seen it, you know. People have always seen us for who we are. Yes, like 20 years worth of testimonies, you know. And it's just like that with God, you know. You've got to start in primary school, you've got to go up to secondary school and college even, you know, which I maybe class as being one of the senior pastors at a church, you know. But then you kind of got to go into university if that's your calling. And it's just a learning experience, but it's a journey, and it's a tremendous journey. Yes, that'll maybe do it for this video, guys. The next one, I really want to sort of go back again, and I just want to go through some of the major points that we went through during that time, because some of them are very, very important. It's stuff that you need to hear, and I want you to hear, you know. And it's not just this great stuff for what we're doing, you know. It's the challenges, the hurt, the things that we got wrong, you know, as well. But always share that and be open about, you know, where you're at and what you got right and what you didn't, you know. But for now, guys, I just really hope you enjoyed this. Again, I'll share so many testimonies about all these sort of times and stories and teachings and all sorts of stuff, you know. But again, guys, I just want to show you guys who we are and where we come from. As always, guys, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit notifications. Again, we're YouTubers, so that'd be awesome. Again, guys, you know, we've got our Birnie Family YouTube, we've got our Birnie Family Fun for kids, all that for you. But as always, guys, I'm always here. We're going to be sharing and sharing and sharing. Hopefully, always going to be here for you. We're going to do our very, very best to show you the mind of God, who He actually is.